Off-roading is where the road ends and the adventure begins, right? But is it really this simple? Because if so, then what about this? Does this count as off-roading? What about this? And this? Welcome to White Medal. Let's talk off-roading. The answer isn't that simple. While all of the aforementioned clips come under the common umbrella that is off-roading, you'll see that the 4x4s you saw couldn't have been more diverse. Imagine you're cruising along on the mountain roads in your SUV and you stop for a moment to just take the scenery in, and in your periphery there's a trail. That's when the automotive marketer's hard work kicks in. Suddenly you remember the commercial where a front-wheel drive crossover heroically crosses an adventurous path and there's one hell of a view waiting. But in reality, there's always the risk of this. Which is why we have decided to bust 5 most common misconceptions around off-roading. Number 1. All-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive is the same. It's easy to get confused between the two since both the powertrains send out power to all 4 wheels, but the key difference between the two is that 4-wheel drive cars have a proper low-range gearbox and all-wheel drive cars don't. We're talking about a very small niche of cars in Indian market. We have the Renault Duster AWD, Skoda Kodiaq, VW Tiguan, Jeep Compass AWD and Jeep Meridian AWD. While all-wheel drive is better than front-wheel drive or simply rear-wheel drive, it's worth noting that these cars are soft roaders and should not be put to test in hardcore trails. A low-range gearbox has torque multiplication gears that multiply engine's torque output in an insane ratio. And in hardcore trails with steep gradients, loose surface and underwater obstacles, the extra torque helps the wheels find traction. Number 2. Any 4-wheel drive car is a go-anywhere car. Yes, most stock 4x4s are pretty capable and can take you really far off the road, but unless you are 100% familiar with the trail, you never know when the difficulty level might get knocked into 5th gear. So when the going gets hardcore, you need the whole kit. Also, when you're out exploring a new trail, it's best you don't do it alone. It pays dividends to have a recovery vehicle handy. While most stock 4x4 SUVs are equipped with locking or limited slip diffs, the ones without these are always at the risk of getting stuck. The reason why stock 4x4 SUVs have limited gear to work off-road is because almost 70% of the time they are driven on-road, and the two are inversely proportional. Number 3. Off-road kit equals God mode. Your off-road rig is equipped with empty tires, a snorkel breather, off-road bumpers, state-of-the-art winch, and a pair of badass rock sliders. You get behind the wheel and you feel like an apex predator. Absolutely unstoppable. But then again, you didn't take into account the off-road geometry of your car. And as a result, your car gets beached on its side because of the long ramp breakover angle. Or you just pick the wrong line while climbing and as a result, your car loses momentum and veers off to the other side. The hammer alone does not decide the skill of the carpenter. And same goes for off-road rigs. Number 4. Wheel size equals capability. See, big wheels look absolutely amazing, but the idea that they alone improve your vehicle's off-road capability is catastrophic. You see, when you upsize your wheel size, yes, it improves the geometry and the ground clearance, but it leaves you with a long list of adjustments because when the size goes up, the speedometer is the first one to lose its calibration. And as a result of increased diameter of the wheel, your wheel will cover more distance per rotation, which means increased speed, but that kills the torque significantly. To make up for the torque loss, you might have to upgrade your differentials. Also, with upsized wheels, there's always the risk of your tires scraping against the arches. To fix that, you may end up fitting a lift kit or upgrading the suspension, and that's massive bill. Number 5. Car with a snorkel is basically a submarine. You must have seen cars with snorkels wading through water like a crocodile. But here's the thing, just by plonking a snorkel on the side alone is not enough. You have to make sure that all the electrical components like sensors and wiring harnesses are properly sealed because they are the first one to give up and make your car come to an abrupt halt while crossing. Also, you may want to decide if you want a front-facing or a rear-facing snorkel. On the Force Gurkha, you'll see that the snorkel is facing backwards. And that's for a very good reason. If yours is a front-facing one, then you'll have to be extra careful while entering any water body. If you enter exuberantly, then the splash might enter the snorkel and then your engine. And then you'll end up with a waterlogged engine. What most people don't realize is that snorkel has its own air box called the bung. And just like your air filter, it requires periodic cleaning. That adds another layer of maintenance. Now that we have a clearer picture of what to expect, you will be able to read through marketing tricks like open books. The point of marketing is to sell you a lifestyle. But with enough self-awareness, you will be able to draw a line between what you want and what you need. Marketing has us convinced that 4x4 cars are do-it-all cars, chugging through slushes on weekends and taking on open highways and city streets during the weekdays. But in reality, please ask yourself, how often do you see a 4x4 in its natural habitat? How many have you seen plugging through dense mud, crossing rivers, and making a quick work of steep gradients? When you gradually start immersing your toes, you'll realize what your driving style is going to be and where you stand on what we like to call our off-roading pyramid. Depending on the degree of off-roading, your driving needs, and your preferences, you'll be sitting in one of these categories. First, we have the soft roaders. If you spend most of your time behind the wheel, doing city commutes and highway runs, a good front-wheel drive or at the most an all-wheel drive crossover will best serve your driving needs without having to cater to the temperamental needs of committed off-roaders. This segment offers the most flexibility, ease of ownership, and is the most economical choice as CUVs strike the perfect balance between utility, performance, capability, and economy, while providing the driving pleasure almost as good as sedans. And then we have occasional explorers. You have bought a nice 4x4 that may or may not seat 7 people. You take it out on special occasions, and on weekends, you're on a lookout for trails and beaten paths. At the same time, the same car takes your family on long drives across states, and you don't mind spending more on the car's slightly greater thirst and its increased maintenance that comes with it. If this is indeed you, then a lifestyle 4x4 is perfect for you. Once you get your hands dirty enough and you figure out all the nuances of mastering basic trails, bingo! Chances are you might get the urge to commit yourself even more to test your limits as you conquer terrains. And then we have overlanders. Now that you've graduated from lifestyle off-roaders, you know how differentials work, you know how to pick a line, basic self-recovery, winching, responsible water wading, and even getting your hands dirty with a few basic mechanicals of your truck. You have scraped it enough to know its absolute limits. That's when you'll need to upgrade your kit. MTs, snorkel, winch, off-road bumpers, upgraded suspensions, and maybe even differentials. But on the offside, your car won't be as predictable and taut as it was before on roads. Your kit has significantly increased the weight and subsequently its thirst and maintenance. If you don't mind taking care of those inconveniences and you frequent wilderness much often, then yes, spending a fortune to build an overlanding rig will make perfect sense to you. And then we have hardcore competition rigs. You have a bucket list of the toughest trails, a project build that's a mountain goat, and an eye for perfect line selection. It's highly likely that you know every corner and cog of your machine, and you're determined to compete against like-minded off-road enthusiasts as yourself. If this is indeed you, then you won't mind chauffeuring your not-so-road legal vehicle on a trailer to competitions, spending a fortune on aftermarket modifications for that perfect off-road geometry, go-anywhere suspensions, and other tweaks that make your car almost unrecognizable. In this case, you may not mind because this project build is not going to be for the roads at all. We have a different daily car for that. If you made up your mind to become a hardcore off-roader, you'll be glad to know that there are plenty of off-roading schools in India to help you improve your off-roading game. To begin with, the first and probably the biggest name that comes to mind is the Mahindra Adventure, which is set up by the OEM itself in Igatpuri, Maharashtra. PS, you'll need your own rig to get started, and as you move further south, you have R&T 4x4 Training Academy in Kottayam, Kerala, run by one of the most legendary names in off-roading industry, R&T Auto Catalyst. These maestros are known to build some of the best off-road rigs, You can try and search for their famous builds like Grasshopper and the Blue Whale. You'll get the gist. Also, we have the Madras Offroading Academy at Pudupakkam. They cover the full spectrum of off-roading, starting from basics, then graduating to intermediate, and then to the advanced courses. And if you're looking to be a part of a proper off-roading community, there are literally tons of them. We have the Gurkha Owners Club, Gang of Thars, Jimny Owners Club, the SUV Club of India, and so many more. So to sum it all up, the off-roading scene in India looks very promising. And with new 4x4s becoming more democratized, this is a great time to get into it, if you're really passionate about it. But let's address the elephant in the room. I would still urge you to sit down and think carefully before making this huge commitment. Because buying a 4x4 is not like buying any other car. Yes, they're big and butch, they're head turners and very intimidating. But these cannot be the reasons to buy them. Simply because owning a 4x4 adds multiple layers of maintenance. For instance, the transfer case oil needs to be changed every 60 to 70,000 kilometers. The steering joints are different. Most 4x4s come with a CV joint rather than a simple ball joint. That alone demands a separate lesson of awareness and care. Also, the on-road characteristics of a 4x4 are very different. You have to be very mindful while tackling corners, as these hulking giants can get top heavy really fast. So our advice would be to slow down, do all your due diligence, figure out where you sit on our off-road pyramid, and then buy the car that best suits your needs, irrespective of what your neighbors, friends, office peers, or even in-laws think. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it with someone who's frequenting showrooms, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, fasten your seatbelts, drive safe, and go easy on the high beams. Ciao.